What is up, Titans? Welcome to a brand new Titans Season 4 update video. Now, there's some really interesting little news tidbits here and there, some new set photos from Season 4, even a video which could allude to a Church of Blood location maybe, and I want to chuck a theory or two in there, which is where you guys come in as well, because I love the discussion that we have down in the comments with regards to these latest updates. Also, we've actually got our first proper look at, I was going to say Brother Blood then, but really Sebastian Sanger, who is, well, the real identity of Brother Blood, but as we all know, there's going to be a bit of a transformation this season, and we can get into a little bit of that. Also, some more set photos, or should I just say in general, episode shots of characters, thanks to the cinematographer / director, Boris Modzfosky. I swear, I'm just going to give up saying that second name. But yeah, we've got a little bit to go over, so if you're enjoying these Titans videos, we'd always appreciate a little thumbs up, because it just helps the videos out. And be sure to subscribe for any little bit of updates regarding Season 4, whether they're small or big. This is the place to be for that. So let's first talk about the photo that Joseph Morgan has revealed, and there's actually a couple of them, and that's our first look at Sebastian Sanger, Brother Blood. But really, I think Sang actually translates to blood, which is a cool little play there, even though it's Sanger. Do correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm not a language expert at all. But he captioned the image saying, just a lonely guy working the night shift at a dead-end job, dreaming of someday changing the world. That honestly says a lot, and as always, I like to get into a bit of speculation here, theorize, and you guys bounce back on that, and by all means, I'm not saying I'm gonna be right or close to being on point here, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, in where even possibly the audience can empathize with Joseph Morgan's Sebastian Sanger here, I feel like with the description we just read out there, this kind of lonely guy working a night shift at a dead-end job, dreaming of someday changing the world, perhaps it is not simply, but somewhere along the lines of Sebastian going down that darker road in order to perhaps, you know, change the world. And that will be the journey that ultimately does take him to Brother Blood. But there's clearly some kind of twisted deviation that happens at some point. That could be an inspiration he has out of some personal loss that drives him to have that strong desire of, where, you know, he's still working in that dead-end job, but dreaming of someday changing the world. That's quite an ambition to have. Now, I don't know what dead-end job he has, but it can't be, I mean, if it's being described as a lonely guy working at the night shift of a dead-end job, it can't be something that requires a lot of smarts here and there, even though Sebastian usually is a very intelligent character. That probably serves for more of his frustration, to be honest, if anything. If you're working a dead-end job and you feel like you should be doing something more, let alone dreaming of changing the world, that ambition can be fueled by just that frustration in your day-to-day life of not doing what you feel like you should be doing. But I do wonder if that inspiration of changing the world is driven by perhaps just seeing the state of things in the world that have made him have this certain outlook. But as Joseph Morgan has said as well, that this is indeed Sebastian Sanger. Like, this is not Brother Blood yet, because he doesn't exist yet, except in the darkest corners of Sebastian's mind. But then, just looking at this episode shot image here from Boris Modzfosky, showing the slight side angle at Sebastian Sanger here, with Joseph Morgan reposting this image, saying the caption of, "If only he knew." If only he knew what? Again, I love these teasers because, okay, there's working a dead-end job on a night shift, you know, desiring to somehow change the world, and then if only he knew. If only he knew what? I mean, that must be quite crucial. If only he knew then what he could become as Brother Blood? Maybe it's a reference to that. If only he knew what was going on in his life, or that maybe he's introduced to through the Church of Blood, that kind of gives him this somewhat enlightening experience, albeit it's quite a culty enlightening experience, which obviously a lot of other people wouldn't agree with. This is where I kind of get into the line of thinking of what influences he will have to even join the Church of Blood. Maybe that's through Mother Mayhem. Now, this location that we're seeing in the background could obviously be anything. Like, I can't really speculate too much about that, but clearly Sebastian here has this almost bewildered-esque look on his face. One thing that comes to my imagination is Sebastian perhaps is being inducted into whatever iteration of the Church of Blood this is. You have to think, you know, when he's in this clothing getup, because we have had it described to us by Joseph Morgan that not only is there a change in many ways that you can imagine from Sebastian to Brother Blood, but that will be shown through almost this fashion as well. And right now we see this kind of mild, casual looking Sebastian, but that will be, I guess, maybe more flamboyant, who knows, maybe more smart. We'll have to wait and see there. But that is certainly telling, as of at least right now, given that clue, that he clearly hasn't made the transition yet. But just looking at this photo, I don't want to read into it too much, but there is some kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it a revelation, some bewilderment on his face, but I do like to think that what if there's some kind of epiphany here in this moment, some kind of something that causes that look on his face. I mean, obviously there is, but we just don't know what it is. But that's what these videos are all about, you know, having a little bit of fun with imagining it. Maybe he's meeting Mother Mayhem, as I was getting into a second ago, because we can't forget that Franca Potente is playing Mother Mayhem. Now, usually Sebastian, or should I just say Brother Blood in general, is the kind of leading figure in the Church of Blood. But I wonder, and as I always say, adaptations aren't copy and paste, so I think that Mother Mayhem might be the one to kind of seduce almost Sebastian with his outlook in life, with this idea of him maybe being able to bring to fruition his ideology or his desires to change the world, but through the facet of, oh, well, we can do that with the Church of Blood. If only you knew what we could do for you or bring about for you. Or just, you know, here's how you can, Sebastian, through the church. And again, this is complete speculation, but I do like to think, given, you know, what we saw last season with the Church of Blood, it was an Easter egg when Tim Drake was riding through Gotham on his bike, delivering food. But it was already up there in the background. But then again, this could all be explained through flashbacks, which would be why you could argue that Sebastian Sanger was already in the Church of Blood in that scene last season. That's all up in the air at the moment, but I love getting teasers of character shots like this from Boris because it's just cool. Like, we're going to recognize these frames when we see the episodes come to our very screen. I think it's going to be a powerful story there from this man who quite often, I don't know why, it's giving me Joker vibes, just in the terms of Arthur Fleck. I'm not saying Sebastian or Joseph Morgan's going to play a crazy laughing clown, but it's that kind of, I don't want to lean too much into societal influence, but clearly for a man to be working a night shift in a dead-end job, maybe through that frustration of life, pent-up frustration, gets inducted into this cult. Oh, wow, it's so much more than what I imagined, but, you know, he's vulnerable to that kind of Church of Blood cult mindset. And the Church of Blood is that. One thing they want to do is change the world, and sometimes that's through eradicating every non-believer in the service of serving Trigon. But that's another thing up in the air. Are they like with this adaptation, there's so many ways they can go about this. Usually Brother Blood is this kind of emissary, the right-hand man of facilitating and serving Trigon coming back into the world. Are they going to go there again? Is Trigon got to whisper into Brother Blood's ear at some point, promise him these delusions of his dream being realized? That is, you know, I really don't know, because we've already had Trigon tease a little bit before he got yeeted back into that portal. Who knows here? Who knows? Now, guys, this is where that beginning video comes up, and this really segues nicely into the conversation we're already having, because what we see here, and I'm just looking at it on screen again, is that this could be the location or a location for the Church of Blood, possibly where they meet up, but perhaps, you know, adapted in a modernized kind of way, if you know what I mean, because clearly you can see, at least in the beginning, and I know, I see stained glass, little kind of church-esque cross symbols. I think a Church of Blood. Oh, what a revelation here. But, you know, really, like the lighting in the background, the red, the very blood red, maybe that's too on the nose and I'm getting too far ahead of myself there, but it does seem to be, the more I look at this, with the stained glass church-esque windows in the far background, a very club-like atmosphere with the red strobe lights going around, it just makes you think that this could be a little hub. Maybe on the surface it is presented in a club way to get people, you know, coming to their location. Maybe that's how they recruit people. It's kind of strange at the same time. If it's like an almost converted church-like location. At the end of the day, they could just be bringing like a new cult-esque thing, yet with the Church of Blood to fruition, like their own identity. This is our own thing, and surprisingly, people who are already there may already be inducted. And you can see that in between the shots of this video, and I might be pausing it on screen every now and again, you have actors with their face masks on, with drinks at the ready. So clearly this is like a little bit of like a social place, and you can see a few Titans are here. You know, Brenton's Dick Grayson is kind of hard to miss. But I believe that we also see Tegan Croft's Raven sat down in this smart kind of get up, if you will. Now, this can or could possibly be linked to this photo that you're now seeing of Jay Lycargo and Tegan Croft here dressed smartly. So what I'm thinking here is that it could be a situation of a few Titans going into this Church of Blood location undercover to see what's going on, as they've clearly, by this point in this scene of filming, heard some shady things about it. And if it is indeed somewhat of a club-esque kind of social setting front that they have for their Church of Blood cult, and that could also be, by the way, how we have Sebastian Sanger, you know, go to this location as well. It could be quite easy for them to slip in and just more or less scope the place out. So let me know your thoughts there. Do you believe that this could be a location for the Church of Blood? Do you believe that in this kind of modernized adaptation, they could be using as somewhat of a club front? Maybe, again, that's how, whether we see it through flashbacks or not, we could see it in real time, as we also get scenes of the Titans and everyone in Metropolis going to Star Labs and whatnot, as Sebastian Sanger gets corrupted or seduced into their ideals of the Church of Blood. Joseph Morgan has also given us a tease for episode 5, with his tweet saying, "Just read the script for episode 5 of DC Titans. Bloody hell." As in, full stop, bloody, full stop, hell. So, wow, that makes me very, very excited. I do wonder if they're going to follow suit with last season, you know, how episode 5 was somewhat of a dedicated Jason flashback episode. There's usually that episode in Titans where, whether it's Deathstroke season 2, season 3, where we had the Red Hood in episode 5 come to fruition with Scarecrow dancing at the end. Was that episode 5 or was... Either way, episode 5 was mainly the flashback where we got a lot of context for that character. Maybe, even if not fully following suit with that episode last season, there's usually that episode, as I was mentioning, where we get all the context, the missing pieces with that villain, and how they truly stumbled on that road to become the character they morphed into. So that could be episode 5, and with Joseph Morgan teasing bloody hell, well... yeah, it could be quite the explosive one where we've got a few teasers up to episode 5 so far, but that episode 5 is the one that really packs the punch. That's not the only Sebastian Sanger teaser we've got so far. Now, thanks to Joseph Morgan's Instagram story, we have another peek at Sebastian here, and this particular shot again makes me very intrigued because he's wearing somewhat of a apron / overall here, and you usually wear these if you don't want to make a mess, or if you're anticipating some kind of mess. You could just argue it's simply whatever his dead-end job is, and he has to wear it to stop his normal clothes from getting a bit messy. But I clearly like to think, oh, what if he's doing something, even if it's not a part of his usual dead-end job, in his spare time, to kind of lean more in towards what he wants to do to change the world, and it involves some kind of bloody mess. But again, that's way too easy speculation. Feel free to go off in the comments with regards to that. Just interesting that he's wearing overalls. There's already quite a few Dexter comments being made, and I completely see why. Just that kind of overall get up with normal-esque clothes, looking fairly like a casual, normal-looking dude. But as we know, this character is going to have quite that transformation. An interesting thing to me when considering Brother Blood, and again, this adaptation, I think they will do a lot of their own innovation here. They're not just going to paste everything from the comic books, as I always say. An interesting thing about Brother Blood, when we see that emotional picture of Sebastian earlier, or whatever, or just thinking about how they're going to do this in general, is that in the comics, usually the only way that Brother Blood can ascend to that rank, the role of Brother Blood within the Church of Blood, is through patricide. So killing your own parent, the one who was the Brother Blood before you. It's kind of like, excuse my Star Wars nerd out here, the Sith in Star Wars canon have a rule of 2, usually. The Master and the Apprentice. There has been lots of Sith in the galactic history in the past, but Darth Bane, I'm really nerding out now, thought that it would be a lot better to do a rule of 2, because then all of that power, all of that knowledge is being passed down to that one person, the Master and the Apprentice, and it's a bit of like a weird thing if you're the Master, because you know that one day you're destined to be killed by your apprentice, for them to rise up and strike you down and become more powerful. And so with the master and the apprentice situation, each time the apprentice then becomes the master and they take an apprentice, they die, and that knowledge is always passed down to make that person underneath become the more powerful one. It's the same somewhat ideology there with Brother Blood in the Church of Blood's history. Now, I don't think they're going to go crazy, because I think like Sebastian Blood was like the 8th or 9th Brother Blood. Now, in this iteration, again, do not really expect them to go straight up adaptation there, but I do wonder if we're going to have Sebastian Sanger kill his own father, maybe. They could chuck that in there for a little bit of a, nod to that in the comics. Or maybe as to, I don't know. I don't think that his father would have been a previous Brother Blood, because in this adaptation, I think it's going to be a fairly recent thing. Maybe they're going to reveal it goes back to ancient kind of times, because it kind of does in the comics. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. That's where it's really all up in the air. But I wouldn't be surprised if they adapt little bits and pieces here of maybe he has to do something like that to ascend, because clearly one thing that I think will remain is a very horror element with the Church of Blood. And whatever rite of passage he has to do with whatever they decide to do to adapt Brother Blood is going to be bloody and horrific. So who's he going to have to kill? Who's he going to have to sacrifice in whatever ceremony? Is it going to be a nod like his father? Is he already going to have a bad relationship with his dad? Has he already done that in the past? Who knows? But that's just a little bit of tidbitty kind of knowledge there for you to think about. Then we have to also think about the vampiric side, because believe it or not, in the source material, we've had Brother Blood even go as far as freaking sinking his teeth into Superboy's arm, and through that kind of mixture of blood, he becomes even more powerful. Now, we know that this season, the villains are going to be fairly powerful, because Church of Blood in general are magic-y, and clearly that not only screws over a lot of the vigilante titans, but it goes up in arms with Raven, who is obviously using magic, but also Superboy is weak to magic. So then knowing that Brother Blood has done that before in the comics with Superboy just makes you think, man, are they going to go, like, ranking up periodically throughout the season? So, like, he does something that makes him powerful, then something else that makes him even more powerful, then something like what I just mentioned with Superboy that makes him even more powerful, and just so formidable that maybe it requires each and all the Titans to really unify and think outside the box to take down such powerful villains. But again, I'm dying to know a little bit more about Franca Potente's Mother Mayhem at this point. Hopefully they give us some teasers for that. Maybe she hasn't even come in this season yet, but maybe they're just filming scenes with her quite behind the scenes. It's really ambiguous there with regards to that, because it does feel like this Brother Blood in this iteration is brought in an already existing kind of church. Unless, as I've said, it's done through flashbacks, like in Season 3 of Titans when we saw that Church of Blood billboard up there. Maybe what we're seeing right now with the Sebastian Sanger photos is how his journey in flashbacks is being told as to how he creates the Church of Blood through whatever path that leads him down that. Or let me know if you think down in the comments below if you think it's already created and just Sebastian joins it and becomes, I guess, a bit of their front man. Now, I've saved this for last because there's not too much to say about it, because we see, Dick Grayson. There's not too much to say here. It looks like he's in a parking garage or something like that. In this photo here, we see Boris, the man himself who provides these photos to us. Thank you if you ever watch one of these videos for giving something for us to, bite on in the meantime. Would love to know what this set is with Tegan Croft in this particular photo that you're seeing on screen, just because it looks like it reminds me of like what the inside of Star Labs or something would look like, and it may very well be the case, because we know from some behind-the-scene press photos that they were shooting at Star Labs. Now we get a little shot of Starfire here. Again, not too much to say other than she's holding some kind of box there. To me, it looks like a teeny little jewelry kind of box, but it's a bit out of focus in that shot. So let me know if you have any ideas as to what the heck that could be. And overall, guys, I think that is mainly everything. But knowing my luck, Boris might be posting as I'm posting this video if there's anything substantial, because don't forget, we are expecting a Beast Boy official suit reveal. As we know, DC Titans, as they go along in the production, usually reveal the official suit concept art through LJ Super Suits, but also a professionally shot, photo of said actor in the suit. We also have a Brother Blood suit coming out at some point, but that might be a little while away from now. considering they might only do that if they're shooting in public with an actual, their own rendition, if you will, of Brother Blood's suit. Who knows if they're really going to adapt the skull helmet and everything like that. But usually, you know, DC Titans do a pretty faithful adaptation of their physical suits, and they look extremely high quality. So yeah, like the video, stay subscribed, or subscribe in the first place if you're brand new here for more updates just like this. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and theories down below about anything I discuss in this video. Do follow me on Twitter. I have an Instagram as well. All of those links are in the description as always, or in a top pin comment. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Titans in the next update video. Goodbye.